This is probably going to be one of the most important ICP videos that I've made probably within the last month, and maybe even, who knows what the future holds, but maybe within this upcoming month. This is going to be a jam-packed update of all of my key takeaways from just ICP at ETH Denver. So stick around, stay tuned in, all this type of stuff, because obviously ETH Denver is a very, very important conference. It's very popular. A lot of people show up, and ICP, I would say, had a pretty strong presence here at ETH Denver this year. So I want to give you kind of my takeaways from, the good, the bad, the ugly, all that type of stuff. I will say kind of TLDR, very, very positive, very, very bullish. There's a lot of different reasons as to why I think it is, but we'll get into that. Obviously, this is going to be a little bit probably of a lengthier video, just as I kind of go through and analyze all of the different bullish or maybe bearish or indifferent types of things that we did see out of ICP at ETH Denver 2025. So anyway, we'll go ahead, we'll dive right in. Starting out, before we get into kind of the review overall, I did just want to give a quick kind of update on price here, because we can see, obviously we saw a little bit of a dip when kind of Bitcoin sold off super bad, and then now we actually saw a little bit of a pump today when kind of the market went up crazy. So what we've seen out of ICP recently is just not a whole lot of volatility. There's not a ton of volume, there's not a lot of movement going on. We can see here on the Bollinger Bands, still pretty tightly squeezed or squoze. We can see they're a little bit wider than what we saw, kind of right before the dump here. But ICP RSI strength is kind of coming back a little bit. We're sitting here at about neutral. So I think we've kind of seen probably the worst is over, maybe. I can knock on wood, who knows for sure. But I think maybe we've seen kind of the worst. And maybe we've seen the bottom here. Again, it's impossible to know for sure, but ICP seems to potentially have found its floor. So that's kind of what we're seeing out of price here. I did want to kind of go back and now talk kind of bigger picture about what we're seeing out of ICP. Just because obviously, I did spend a lot of the weekend there. I went to the ICP booth. If any of you guys saw my post on YouTube, you saw that I was taking the weekend off from posting videos, just because I was trying to absorb as much information as possible from these crypto conferences. I will have kind of probably like my overall thoughts on just what I took out of ETH Denver probably tomorrow morning. But I just want to kind of give you this quick update with ICP specifically, because obviously I know there's a lot of you who are followers of the channel that watch a lot of my ICP content. I personally am also very interested in ICP. There's a lot of just kind of bluster and kind of just vaporware in my opinion within crypto. And so ICP is one of those very, very few products that I actually think delivers or has the ability to deliver something very, very interesting and promising. So I want to kind of zoom in on that a little bit, talk about some of the things that we saw. So first off, we'll start with kind of the general kind of I guess let's say conference presence, right? So ICP actually had a pretty nice looking booth right at the beginning, or right at the entrance of ETH Denver, of the conference hall. So basically everybody passed by the ICP booth if they attended ETH Denver kind of at that main conference. So that was really cool. They were very strategically placed. Part of me wonders how much that costs. I'm sure that's a premium spot. So they definitely shelled out some money there, I think, to kind of be there. They also had some pretty interesting people there as well. They had Kyle Langham there. So I actually listened to one of his quick talks. We'll probably actually be playing a video from that talk specifically. I was able to find it on YouTube, and I'll also probably leave the link so you guys can go check it out. But we'll kind of leave that there for a little bit later on in the video, because we're going to be kind of flowing into that as we go. Right now we're starting, just with kind of the overall conference presence. They had a bunch of people there. I would say that the swag was somewhat underwhelming. Not that that's like a huge problem. There's just usually at ETH Denver, there's a lot of people who give out some pretty crazy stuff, and that can sometimes attract some more attention. However, in my opinion, I do think the ridiculous kind of over the top swag is, I don't know. I don't know that I see a return on investment there. That seems to me kind of like it could be a waste of money. So I'm not going to fault ICP there. I think they actually had probably a pretty good strategy there. One of the things that was pretty apparent, I would say, from their just kind of the message that they were putting out into the open was they're focused on developers. One of the first things the ICP staff, when I came to talk to them, actually asked me is if I was a developer. And when I said no, they kind of almost immediately tuned out, which I thought was really interesting. I don't think that that's a bad thing, but I think it's really important to show that like the vision or the kind of the vibes, I guess, for lack of a better term, the like vibes they put out there is that they're all about devs, right? They want to onboard devs. They only care about devs. And that was very, very clear meeting them in person at ETH Denver. They really wanted to kind of get in front of devs, meet devs, a lot of that type of stuff. And I actually met with one of the heads of marketing for one of their products called the Oizy wallet. And he had some really, really insightful comments just about ICP in general, but also kind of their strategy going forward that I think actually makes a bunch of sense. And so kind of zooming in on that and kind of focusing on that, what the kind of plan there was, at least as he described it to me, and also just to kind of pause on that, this guy was actually the CMO at Camino Finance. So definitely a really, really strong background coming over from Solana to ICP. So that's also kind of bullish news in and of itself. So we're seeing kind of some talent being drawn to ICP. Obviously, Camino did very, very well with their marketing and growing on the Solana ecosystem, a lot of that type of stuff. So I was very, very excited to hear that ICP was able to draw somebody like that onto their project, because as we've all talked about, ICP's marketing is not the best. And so having somebody who has that type of skill and capability, I think is really, really cool. And I think it's going to bode very well for ICP in the longer term. Now, the thing he made very, very clear is he was there to talk about the Oizy wallet and talk about how that works within the ICP ecosystem. And I was kind of confused about that at first, but as he kind of explained it more, I thought it made a lot of sense. And I think that this is a very clever move that ICP is doing, because what ICP essentially is trying to do here is they're trying to do an application first marketing perspective. And the way he put it, rightfully so, is, he kind of said that people have been kind of burned by ICP price. Obviously, if people are trying to check out a chart, they go in, or check out a project, they go and look at the chart. Obviously, ICP's chart is not particularly great if you zoom out kind of long enough. And so what we're seeing is they're trying to essentially kind of pivot that away from kind of the ICP main token and into a lot of these apps. Now, the reason that doesn't concern me and actually makes me think that that's a good idea is because we need to remember that all of these apps are built on ICP. And so if they have success and if they take off, the cycle burn rate goes up, the number of ICP burnt goes up, ICP becomes deflationary, and now the tokenomics start to get pretty interesting, right? I think kind of we're all fairly familiar with those types of dynamics and how that kind of goes. And so I think, and this is something that I think is also very important. It's kind of a narrative on the wider crypto ecosystem. And this is something I'll probably talk about in a little bit more depth on my video tomorrow. But what we see a lot within the crypto ecosystem, and because there were several people that actually mentioned this in their talks, is that there's so much focus on building a protocol, and they're trying to go for like the field of dreams approach, the build it and they will come type of approach. And I think that's a bad approach. That to me doesn't make a lot of sense. You need to really work on building something that's flexible and that works. But you don't need to build something and then just hope people show up. You need to get stuff to market and get it in front of people and have it be successful. What we really need within crypto is retail successes. We need people that actually want to use the products that people are trying to build, right? We don't care about these protocols that are cool and awesome and stuff, because really what that means is, well, now there needs to be a dev that goes and, essentially like kind of takes that off, right? And so that is kind of the problem there. And what we've seen with ICP is that they've really focused on devs, and now they're really focusing on the application layer. Oizy Wallet's a great example. They talked a bunch about Caffeine at ETH Denver. This video from Kyle Langham that I'm going to be playing is very heavily based on Caffeine. I also got some really interesting updates about Caffeine. Unfortunately, I can't say specific dates because he had said that would probably not be a good idea. But the person or the couple of people that I was talking to, but they do have some dates that they're targeting. It does sound, I probably am not spoiling anything by saying it does sound like it is going to be inside of this year, which is really, really good. So that's obviously great news. I'm overall pretty happy, based on talking to that person and or these people generally, and just kind of getting their sense for what their kind of plan is internally at ICP. And I think focusing more on the application layer and the application development, that to me makes a lot of sense, because you don't part of, I think, why people don't understand ICP and they kind of get lost in the weeds. And this is something that always does kind of shock me when going to these types of conferences. People have no clue about almost anything from a technical perspective in crypto. It's ridiculous. And so, but we have to understand that and kind of act and navigate accordingly, right? And so, but I think that's part of the issue with ICP is it's very, very interesting. The tech is awesome, but people just don't get it because they don't even understand like why stablecoins work, or what a layer 2 is, or how a layer 2 works, what liquidity fragmenting is, or like things like that. MEV, people just don't understand this type of stuff. And so, and I'm not talking about like some, retail person or whatever. I'm talking like people who are like developing in this space. Like it's wild to me. So anyway, I think this is an interesting plan, and it's an interesting strategy from ICP, trying to essentially pivot towards the applications, getting people to use the applications, understand how it relates and it benefits them directly. This is a very, very tangible shift that I could see just talking from multiple people within the ICP booth, listening to Kyle Langham's talk, a lot of this type of stuff. Like it seems like they're maybe getting some assistance or getting some help from a marketing perspective. They're starting to spend more on marketing. A lot of this type of stuff is starting to come full circle, which I do think is really, really good. However, old habits do die hard. And I did find actually a really, really funny example of that. So I actually have right here the Internet Computer in a Nutshell, a non-technical introduction. Really good, right? Like they're trying to make this digestible and kind of hopefully more useful for like the average person, right? At least that's kind of how I read it, because they say non-technical introduction, right? So what we can see here though, I saw this and I just laughed because I'm like, yeah, this sounds about right. And again, I'm not at all trying to disparage ICP. I love ICP. Hopefully you guys understand this by now. You guys know this. I mean, I cover them very, very frequently. I almost only have positive things to say, but again, I'm honest. I'm not going to just be, kind of a moon boy that only has positive things and tries to hide or, talk down any things that are negative. And this is one of those things where, it's like, this is just very ICP. I know all of you have, or most of you have a lot of complaints with ICP's marketing. And so, this was, I think, the perfect encapsulation of it. And so anybody from Dfinity, please don't take this as an insult. This is just, I'm just hoping to give my feedback to help improve the marketing, because of course I want to see ICP be successful. So anyway, with me couching all of that and caveating all of that, let's move along into this next one. So again, non-technical introduction, ICP in a nutshell. And you can see this is literally the first page. So it says Genesis of the Internet Computer Project. And then the picture here, I don't know if you can actually see it. Yeah, there it is. Binary value consensus. They have a picture on binary value consensus as the very first picture in this like pamphlet. I thought that was pretty hysterical, because I was like, I mean, now obviously, they don't go in and explain this, but like, this just screams to me like somebody who is like, some 150 IQ engineer trying to put together a non-technical pamphlet. Like, it's just so funny to me. So, anyway, you can still see that there are some ICP-isms in there. But overall, I was very, very pleased and very impressed with just the marketing effort that they put in, how they were kind of framing their narrative. Their narrative was very, very consistent and coherent from my perspective. Again, a lot of what they were talking about was very dev focused. I probably, if I was better at having like editing and all this type of, like, I had better at editing production and stuff, I probably could like start to sling in some photos, but we'll just kind of I don't. So you can actually look at my YouTube post where you can see I actually was standing at the very entrance of the like ETH Denver conference room, and you can see the ICPs right there, and you might be able to see on the like interior of ICP. They're all focused on where their dev hubs are. And I thought that was a pretty interesting way to frame it, because with a lot of these other projects, they're saying, oh, we're doing 10 billion transactions per second, theoretical. And we've got, $1 billion of TVL, and we've got this, and we're doing a $400 million ecosystem fund, and we're doing an airdrop, because again, everybody wants an airdrop, and then they move on to the next one. And so, there's a lot of interesting things like that I found kind of funny, where ICP is very much like, we have devs, we focus on devs, we want to build apps, we've got dev tooling, like it's very, very, very dev focused, which again, not really super sexy or applicable to kind of the retail investor at this point in time. But I think that's okay, right? Like we're playing the long game. And I think if we can develop the apps, and this is kind of my whole like Solana theory of why I think Solana's done so well and why most of these other chains haven't, is because Solana just has stuff that people use. And that's ultimately all that matters. If you have stuff that people use, people will be there. And so I think the route that ICP is taking of trying to have some of these highly valuable kind of like viral apps, that is a really, really great way to go. And so anyway, we're going to move over and we're going to kind of watch a quick clip from this Kyle Langham presentation where they kind of start to kind of focus on this specifically. Now this, to give you some more context, this video was talking more about kind of the AI agents, AI, like in the AI space, a lot of that type of stuff. But this quick clip right here, geez, if I can talk, this is talking kind of more about how, like, essentially kind of like the prototypical, like, what's in it for me? How does this benefit me? A lot of that type of stuff. So anyway, we'll go on ahead, we'll play this quick clip, and then we'll kind of wrap it up from there.
All right, so that's one vertical that I think is really, really interesting for the world computer, hosting AI agents. There's an entire different vertical that I think this is really where we're going to get into reaching out to where the masses of our family and our friends are going to finally start getting on Web3, is this idea of describe to create. So we at Dfinity have a product that's in development right now. We're getting ready to release our alpha release of it called Caffeine. You can see a picture of it right here. It's just a standard chat to code interface. So you describe the application you want to run. It's going to build out the code for you and then put it on ICP, the front end, the back end, and the data. It's going to put it on ICP for you. So really standard thing. If you know v0.dev, that's a similar product in the Web2 world. Likeable is a very similar product as well. This is similar to that, except for it hosts it on ICP. But the key features, there's a key moat that we're going to have in Web3 that they will not be able to replicate in Web2, which is the ability to manage that application. So you built an application in Caffeine, you launched it. You're going to be able to manage the lifecycle of that software through that same chat prompt. So 3 months later, you come back and your users have requested a change to your application, or your designer says, I hate the background, or I hate this way that the user flow is. You're just going to go back to your chat prompt, describe the changes you want. It's going to redeploy that code on the internet computer and update your application live. And it's going to do so with orthogonal persistence. So if you know what that term means, it essentially means that the data that your users have already entered into your site that's being stored in your smart contract, it's not going to drop out. And that's really a moat that we're going to see Caffeine has, that it's going to be very, very, very challenging for similar Web2 applications to copy. And that really comes back to the unique architecture of ICP.
So anyway, as we can see, they're kind of really focusing pretty heavy on the how do users use it? What's in it for them? How do people, what is the value here from a actual user perspective, right? No one cares about fully hosted on chain. No one cares about the security stuff. Nobody cares. Obviously, yes, all of it's important. I'm kind of underselling it or underplaying it when I say nobody cares. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's, as a user, how does this make my life better, right? And I think it's very, very clear through how they are kind of presenting this why Caffeine AI is valuable and how it makes it better than some of the alternatives within kind of the space, Web 2 and Web 3, right? So that's something that I'm very, very interested to see kind of as they continue to do this throughout throughout 2025 into 2026, a lot of this type of stuff, because I think they've got the tech there, and I'm really, really thrilled that they're actually starting to go out there and tell people about it. Because last year, I would say, and this is one of those kind of marketing things of like, last year I don't actually think ICP was there. If they were there, it's because I wasn't paying attention, and obviously this year I was paying attention. What I do know for certain is that if they were there last year, they did not have the same presence that they did this year. This year was obviously a lot more front and center, things like that. So that was really good to see. But yeah, it's overall, hopefully that this is a pretty good breakdown of kind of my main takeaways from ETH Denver, why I, kind of the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, all that type of stuff. I'm very, very happy overall, I would say, with what we've seen out of ICP and kind of their showing at ETH Denver. I would say, every time I walked by, there were people talking to people in the ICP booth. So, there was a lot of kind of interest there. There were people that wanted to kind of talk about and kind of see and learn more about kind of what they do, how they work, a lot of that type of stuff. Obviously, they focused on AI. This is something I'll dive in a little bit more about in kind of the overall kind of ETH Denver overview. But like AI was the name of the game this year. Everybody was talking about AI. Everybody was building some AI thing, even if they weren't last year, they were this year. And so, I think, ICP was really kind of playing into that narrative as well. But the benefit there is ICP actually has the ability to kind of deliver on some of the claims that they're making, which I do think is really, really good. So anyway, that's overall kind of that's my update. So I'd love your guys' opinions and thoughts and comments, all that type of stuff in the comment section below. I do read and respond to all of them. So if you have anything you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do so. And I also just, I'd be interested to get your take. Like, am I being too critical with ICP pamphlet? What are your thoughts on kind of the messaging around caffeine? I think that this is a really, really great way to put it that's kind of like understandable and accessible to the masses. I think there's a lot of, I'm very, very happy overall with what we saw out of ICP. And so this is very bullish for me, because this has kind of been the major kind of pain point or the major sticking point that I've noticed of like, if ICP loses, this is how, right? And so to see that they're addressing this and kind of working a little bit harder to kind of reach people, I think that's really, really fantastic news. So anyway, if you did find this helpful, please do give me a like and a subscribe. It really, really does help me out. Stay tuned for the one tomorrow. You can hear about kind of the large overall themes of ETH Denver, what my main takeaways were, a lot of that type of stuff. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.